Hey guys, and welcome back to another brew day with Makery by Mooney. As I discussed with that promo short today, I had a really very original, creative idea for a brew, and I just couldn't get the ingredients. So what we're gonna do is something that is not original at all. It's been done at least a couple of times. But we're gonna do some cotton candy wine. I thought that I couldn't really see um, dark grape juice going with this because to me this is going to be a lighter flavor. So we went with white grape juice, and it takes a little bit of doing. Most of the time, white grape juice has preservatives in it. But as I outlined in that prior video, if you have a Kroger's in your neighborhood, this simple truth organic does not have any preservatives. And also maybe 1 to 2 cups of sugar. Juice already has a decent gravity, so may only put like 1, and some yeast. Get these cotton candy grapes opened up. I've never really looked up how they came up with, I don't know, is this a cultivar or what's up with these? They do smell reminiscent of cotton candy, but we'll get these dumped into our fermenting container here. See those? They were frozen and thawed. And as I've said before, what happens when you freeze fresh fruit and then thaw it is it creates a lot of ice that penetrates all the cell walls, and it makes it where all the juices and stuff are more easily accessible by the yeast. But I don't know really how satisfied I am with kind of how macerated these are. So rather than going through the trouble of putting them in the blender, I think I may just kind of mash them up a little bit. Let's see what I can do. Little spoons, maybe. Nice and smushed up. Got them all busted up. Every time I think I got some of these, or all of them, mashed up, I see some where they're still whole. Crazy. Okay. this white grape juice racked onto the cotton candy grapes so we can get this thing started heating up. You guys, we'll get this fired up here without any more delay. If you remember what I always say, always really try to only get the temperature of whatever you're brewing up to yeast pitching temperature, which is pretty well what they call blood warm. In other words, if you put your finger in there and it's the least bit uncomfortable at all, that means it's too hot for the yeast. So if you overshoot that, then you gotta do things to try to bring that temperature down, which is inconvenient. You either have to put like cold water in there or more cold juice, which at least with the using the juice, you're not going to dilute your gravity, which will then dilute how strong the brew is going to be, for lack of a better word. So what we want to do is just hit that temperature that will wake the yeast up, get them going, but not kill them. I just, my hands are clean, but they're not sanitized. All of this stuff is clean, but none of it is sanitized. I don't really sanitize things. I've never really had a problem with infections, maybe 1 in a million. But I'm not necessarily, if you're just starting brewing, home brewing, advocating that you not do this, not do all the safe things. If you're just starting out, I would say sanitize everything, check your original gravity and your final gravity and your pH and all that until it kind of becomes like second nature. And a lot of people would say you should always do it no matter what. But I guess we'll have to agree to disagree. Once it's up to that blood warm temperature, we will put in, I'm still mulling it over in my head whether I'm going to use 1 or 2 cups of sugar. We'll throw that in there, get it good and dissolved, then turn off the heat, take it off the heat, and pitch in our yeast. So how have you guys been doing this week? If you let me know what you've been brewing down in the comments section, interested in that kind of thing, see what other home brewers are doing. In the end, I'm glad I macerated those grapes a little better. As you can see, you can tell a lot of membranes and just grape guts are exiting into the juice. I don't think we would have been nearly as efficient you know, actually getting the flavor from the cotton candy grapes if we haven't done that. A little bit longer. Now the only thing I'm having to consider is, do I trust that just getting these, you know, mashed up grapes warm enough to get yeast activated and get sugar melted, and leaving it in there with enough time for the yeast to establish an adequate colony, is that going to be enough time to get enough of the flavor from the grapes? Like, should I strain it into the carboy, not leave the grapes in there? Or should I put the grapes in the carboy and ferment the wine on the grapes? Leave the grapes in there. Tell me you guys' thoughts on that in the comments. Okay, it's just about right. So take that off. That heat. Let's see here. Well, maybe a cup and a half of sugar. And get mixed around before this cools down too much. Now this has already gotten quite a bit of smell of that kind of cotton candy smell from these grapes, really. And you might say, well, what you would do now at this point, Jeff, is strain it off. But this is a calculated risk. I want to pitch my yeast before it cools off much more, and kind of let them chew on that. And you complicate a must, and that's unfermented wine basically, when you are straining the, you've already pitched your yeast, and then you're gonna strain it. Like, how much are you straining all your yeast out, basically? So we'll have to think on how we're gonna do this, but I may be shooting myself in the foot. I'm gonna give it a try here. I always forget to take my yeast out of the refrigerator, my bulk yeast, to get it back to room temperature. Before I pack it. I'm certainly not going to microwave it or anything like that. So do the amount we usually do, maybe a couple of tablespoons. We'll do maybe part of one more tablespoon just to overcompensate. For those of you who are new to the craft and you're not like a elitist, a convenient place to ferment it is just when you're done, when the yeast colony is established and all that, just put it back in the bottle. And even people who are not elitists, we kind of balk at that and say, basically, you need a proper carboy and an airlock and all of that. And what I do is I pour it back into the bottle and I leave the cap just barely on. And it's important that you not screw down the cap of an active fermentation, because even with a plastic bottle, at some point eventually you have something called a bottle bomb. The bottle just explodes, which is messy, but even worse, it could be very dangerous. Show you guys something. As you can see here, some of the yeast are dropping out of suspension, and don't be discouraged by that, at least not at face value, because I've been doing this since like 2009, and you know, they like drop to the bottom and then they flocculate back up and create like this nice foamy dome over the top. Oh, I have confidence we're okay here. I don't think I ever did a proper tasting for the Loganberry mead. Not real Loganberry. I think I did like a halfway through tasting. So why don't we get a bottle of that and give it a taste. I'll set it right there. And if I haven't racked this yet, sometimes I don't ever rack it at all. Look at that beautiful color. And I didn't even, I strained the fruit out before I put it in the fermenting containers. So it got that kind of color just from getting it hot enough to pitch yeast and melt sugar, or melt honey. This is a mead. Hey, sometimes things like that happen, right? Well, anyway, let's take a look at it here. It's got some pulp in there, but it's still surprisingly clear. I mean, it's like not really got any haze at all. this is the kind of thing that could benefit from back sweetening. And what I mean by back sweetening is it fermented out completely dry, but there's like, it would taste better if it had a little bit of sweetness to it, because it definitely has what I meant when I said it's not real loganberry is the taste profile of loganberries is a mix between the sweetness of blackberry and tartness of raspberry. It's got the tartness there, but not really much sweetness. So back sweetening is something I don't really do that much. I may do it with this. Get my mess cleaned up here. You knew you'd see some kind of hijinks like this if you tuned in, right? Luckily, I didn't spill that much. Unluckily, I totally aerated it, which could put you at the risk of a Acetobacter infection. Acetobacter is a microorganism that comes in the hierarchy kind of after the yeast has past their prime. They're taking a back seat now, and what Acetobacter does is turn alcohol into vinegar, which if you're trying to make vinegar, that's fine. Otherwise, it's not fine. Hopefully, we are okay. I don't get too fancy with my brews. I don't rack a whole bunch of times, or maybe even at all. I treat this like a bottle of living beverage, like those fancy bottles of craft beer that they're in that bottle on top of a bunch of yeast. Sometimes some of them are still alive, so that's how I do it. But we'll put this back. We keep it in a cooler in case something does happen. It in case you had a bottle bomb or something like that, everything's kept contained. Get that put away. that one is not real high gravity either. That Loganberry, in reality, blackberry raspberry mead. I only put a little over a pound of honey in there. You know, honey is so expensive, but let's look at, it's all happening here. The yeast are nice and awake. And they're coming to life. And I'm kicking around a few methods of getting the juice into the carboy. And leaving the grapes behind. Like I said, I think it would benefit a little bit the yeast kind of chewing on the grapes and converting some flavor and getting the membranes broken down still yet a little bit more, partially between the grapes doing their thing, the yeast doing their thing, and the grapes just sitting in still vaguely warm juice, must. And speaking of calamitous homebrew disasters, you know, I love sharing stories. You guys feel free to, you war-hardened established homebrewers, feel free to mention your worst homebrewing mess that you've ever had in the comments section below, please. I think I'm gonna do my common practice of getting all these guys separated from the side of the pot here. Smells great. It's I made a sparkling, of course you can't call it champagne, but a sparkling white wine. I think it's before I started documenting all this, before I started the channel, so it's probably not on the channel. You gotta remember this channel is only like a little over a month old. It has that character, only with that delicate, kind of nuanced smell profile of the cotton candy grapes. I think what I'm gonna do is use a funnel, and I think the funnel is going to be enough to keep the grapes behind, leave them behind, you know. Let's see. I definitely think that colony is established enough, so we'll try to we'll have to go a little bit at a time here. Get a trash can and a clean spoon. Just kind of dip them out of there. Yeah. Oh, got one slipping through there. Oh shit. Okay, anyhow. get a clean spoon and dip them out. This is going to be tedious, but it's all documented for posterity, right? Have a heck of a mess to clean out. I'm not extremely worried about aeration right now. Aeration's a good thing right now, but like 2 days from now, you wouldn't want to be doing all this. Few of those grapes get in there, it doesn't really bother me. think that's about as much. That's a good amount of headspace. A few grapes did make it into there. I'm not really worried about it, so we're just gonna give it a real bit of aeration here. Some people say to go for a lot longer than that. That's about good enough for me. Once again, just barely put that cap on, good enough that insects and stuff can't get through, but loose enough that the carbon dioxide would be
Hey,
released.
Dad.
Yeah, bud.
I wondered that you got some juice.
Yeah, I did, buddy.
Thanks.
Have some. You're welcome. And we will get not secondary fermentation, but another fermenting vessel to put the rest of this in, because there's still some left. Thinking, use this clean strainer. Hey, that's something there. How about that? If it stays put, right? You see that? Put the strainer on top of the funnel. By the way, I did just clean my hands. Either it's going to be a complete disaster or it's going to be really good. Hey, what do you know? We learned something. Please go. Please go, Mooney. Hey, you get the full family experience here at Makery by Mooney. Sorry. Some people are going to say, that's way too much headroom. You're just putting yourself at major risk for an Acetobacter infection. That's the thing that I mentioned just like 5-10 minutes ago. But I do this frequently and never really had a big problem. So this represents about a gallon. We're going to put it back into our fermenting station, and we'll let you know how it turns out. Hopefully really good. Hopefully it'll become another one of my wife's favorites. But thank you for watching and subscribing. If you like it, please press the like button. We'll see you next time. Good night.